Welcome to the Just Ingredients podcast. I'm Cara Lynn, and here we talk all things nourishing to the mind, body, and soul. This is a place where you can find just good ingredients to life. Join Sarah and Lauren, co-hosts of the Mom Voice podcast and two regular moms trying to figure it all out. Best friends of 15 years, they have wildly different personalities but share a very similar approach to parenting. Sarah is very logical about life, while Lauren takes a more spontaneous approach. We all know motherhood is a wild ride, but also the most important thing we could ever do. The ladies share a variety of topics from parenting, marriage, lifestyle, and news. Listeners have written in over and over that their show is relatable, fun, and that they feel like they're sitting in the room with their favorite friends. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom of teens, come get informed, have a laugh, and help your family thrive. Tune in to the Mom Voice podcast for your mommy morning show. Israel Passwater is a co-owner of and head of business development at Clearlyfiltered, a company with the mission to provide people with the tools to take control of their water and live healthier lives. He is passionate about professionally speaking and building and maintaining relationships for his brand and having the chance to educate others about how water affects your health. Israel was a teacher with an education-wise background in kinesiology, and he is still an adjunct university professor in management. He is finishing his doctorate at Pepperdine University currently and will finish this spring. Thank you, Israel, for being here on the show today. I'm so excited to have you on the show and to help teach my listeners all about water and filtered water and why it's so important. So thank you for being here.
Hey, I'm really excited to be with you guys today. Thanks for your time.
Tell my listeners a little bit about your company, Clearlyfiltered.
Sure. Yeah. Clearlyfiltered, we're a water filtration company. We're actually family owned. So my brother and I are co-owners of the business. We have 15 employees. We're based here in Southern California, and we have another manufacturing site in the South. So we're made here in the USA, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we're an American success story, So we're passionate about connecting people with an option to help them stay healthy through water filtration. It's one piece of the puzzle, we think, or I should say we know. It's not the total piece, but it's one of the pieces. And again, getting a chance to serve, thousands and thousands of customers every day is like a really cool pleasure and honor to do so, so.
That's awesome. We will talk about your filtration system in a little bit because I love the technology behind yours. So we'll come back to that, but let's just start off with some basics about drinking water because maybe some people don't know some of this info. First of all, tell my listeners, where does our drinking water come from?
That's a great question. We're here in California. So California is a desert climate. So there's not a whole lot of water supply. So what we have to do, and what a lot of places have to do, is to draw the water in or transport it in through aquifers and aqueducts and piping into your state or into your city. So it's coming through different pipes, different places, sometimes from different parts of the country and other countries, believe it or not. But it's piped in. And that's also one of the problems, because when you have piping, that also has an opportunity for the water to get polluted. So it's usually funneled in from another source for most places here in the United States, anyways.
Okay, that's good to know. And now, is this drinking water regulated at all?
Yeah, there are standards, but they're not very good. So the EPA and NSF do set the standards, but a lot of your municipal water districts set their own standards, which can be good or not so good, depending on where you live. But yes.
So why is that the quality of your water depends on where you live?
That's a great question. So there's different issues. So it's a question of really, how does water get contaminated? How does it get polluted? Well, one of the problems is if they're transporting the water from point A to point B, like here in California California is a really old state. And so we have a lot of old infrastructure. I know that's kind of like a popular thing right now. We're trying to invest in that, obviously, and make changes. But essentially, the piping being old is rusty, and that rust and some of the heavy metals get actually pumped into the drinking water, which is a problem. And that's something that your local municipal water district can't always remove all of that to various degrees, and also too, it's a question of filtration technology to how many people can they serve, so they're not set up they're really designed to do it in any sort of efficient way in that sense.
Okay. So it really depends on where you live, how your water is filtered and what contaminants are in your water, and some places are going to be better than others then.
Correct. Yeah. And again, but it goes in with the assumption that all tap water is safe. And we've found scientifically, obviously, that you can actually look up. I don't know if you shared with your audience about like the EWG website or whatnot, but there's places that you can have open source tools to actually go in and type in your zip code and find out what's actually in your water supply. And that's information and testing taken from your actual local municipal water district. So, and when you start doing that, you go, oh my gosh, there's really 15 items on there that, and some of them are cancer causing in my tap water, and it's self-identified too. So quite eye-opening when you start going down that path.
It's very eye-opening. When I first knew that the EWG had this database, I typed in our zip code and I was floored at the stuff that is in our drinking water.
Yeah, it's amazing because again, the assumption and I hear a lot of people too, like from like rural areas, they'll say like, oh we're getting it from some aquifer or someplace, and oh yeah, it tastes great. But the problem with taste, obviously, is it's subjective, and it doesn't. And most of the chemicals that can hurt you, that have been proven to cause cancer and all sorts of other problems, you can't see, taste, or smell. So the assumption, like, oh yeah, my water tastes good, or like, hey, I'm in an unpopulated area, that's not a good indicator of how good or not good your water is. So it's kind of an interesting like learning. So like when customers come to us and they say, oh yeah, I found out about you guys because you guys remove PFAS or whatever contaminant they're found that's actually found in their local water supply. That's usually when people start going down the path to find a water filter that actually does remove, insert said chemical,
Right. Well, that's interesting about how the water tastes, because I have heard that before. Like, oh, I live in Utah and Utah's water tastes so good, so it's clean water. So obviously that is not the case then.
Yeah. And again, it's a question of how does the water get polluted? Sometimes it's runoff from rain, and sometimes it's, if you're in an agricultural heavy area, pesticides, herbicides, things run off, that stuff ends up in the tap water. Or even, hormones from pharmaceutical drugs, people, actually flush those things down the toilet, so that's one of the ways that, that we can have those chemicals found in our water supply. But again, there's lots of different ways, but once people figure out this, my water supply isn't as good as I once thought it was, maybe I need to do something about it. So that's usually the first step, is that learning piece, is understanding that yes, the water is contaminated to various degrees, and I probably should do something about it. So that's usually kind of the first step.
Right. It's definitely first learning about it. But I'm curious, are there certain contaminants that are commonly found in water?
Yeah, there's one, obviously chlorine and fluoride are two of the big ones. Depending on who you talk to about fluoride, what their opinion is, it kind of can vary. But again, from our perspective, fluoride, and the big perspective is that it's a neurotoxin, because again, the concentration in which it's found within your local tap water exceeds what you should be. Again, you're not supposed to be ingesting fluoride anyways, and it's not naturally occurring to be in most water that's meant to be drank by humans. So that's really where you find a common one. But again, there are a lot of places they'll have lead because of the piping. And again, like if you get into more rural areas or agricultural areas, they'll see higher levels of pesticides and herbicides. But it really just depends on where you're at too. But all of those being problematic.
So heavy metals, drug runoff, pesticides, the chlorine, the fluoride, so many different things. So really, people need to check the EWG and just see what their city is contaminated with.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we're actually adding a few pieces on our website starting in January, so they'll help that as well. But EWG is a great source. It's a nonprofit, which is kind of cool. So again, we don't have any necessary like affiliation with them, other than they're a good resource for people looking to find out more information. And that's not the only one, but that's probably the most famous one and easy to use too. So.
Do you think the quality of water depends on where you live? Do you think some cities do a better job with the water than others?
They can, but again, it depends on what's in your water. Again, it's not one size fits all, But again, the way that like our filtration technology works wouldn't be set up to handle like a municipal water treatment plant, So again, it's really a matter of like, yes, where you're at, yes, how they're treating the water, and then also how often are they testing it too? So again, it's kind of two pieces of the same whole, but yes, it does vary.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit of filtering, because I get this question quite often. Fridge filtered water. People always ask me, okay, I won't use the tap water because we always use the fridge filter. Is the fridge filter actually filtering anything out?
Typically, no. So that's the scary thing. So the assumption is kind of like, yeah, it's like, hey, I have a filter in my under my sink. I have a filter in some said water pitcher that isn't ours or some other brand, or in the refrigerator, because that's a common one. You're in the kitchen, you're getting ice. So a lot of them have the water spigot so you can have the dispensers. So a lot of them don't. They might reduce sediment usually. Sometimes chlorine taste odor is a pretty common one, but a lot of these filters, they're cheap. And just because your refrigerator has one doesn't mean it's rated to do 365 plus chemicals like what we do. So again, the assumption is I have a filter, therefore I am safe. That's just that's a myth. It's a fallacy. So that's something that people also, when they come to us, they realize, oh, I have a refrigerator filter. Yeah, it's great, but it's not really doing anything. So that's the kind of, it's like, that's nice, but it's not accomplishing the goal that I want for me and my family to stay healthy. So
right. Well, and I do know from reading some stuff about fridge filters that some of them will filter out 8, 9 different chemicals. But like you said, that's not even close to the 300 that your filter does.
Yeah, that's again, it's better than drinking tap water without that. But again, it's scary once you start looking at what's actually in your tap water. So like you run a report and go, does our fridge filter remove that? A, there's probably no information because they haven't tested it to that degree, and B, it's probably not serving the need that you're trying to utilize it for. So it's kind of like a false sense of security, I would call it. So
okay, that's good to know. So I hear a lot of time like, we're so blessed to have water, which we are, and I get that completely. But the next level is, well, is it really doing anything to my health? Should I really be concerned? So my question for you is, does this tap water that's not filtered really affect our health?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're talking about like neurotoxins, from fluoride, or like I'm blanking on the term right now, but the fluoridization of the teeth, fluorosis, or even they find radiological elements, which obviously are cancer causing. And a lot of these chemicals that are in the water supply are cancer causing the parts per billion. So ppb, not ppm, which is parts per million. That's a typical way that they look at contaminants or contaminant removal. So, take any said item that's parts per billion as far as toxic, and you take a medicine dropper and then imagine putting that one drop of that contaminant in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. That's enough to be considered toxic. So the amount, and you think, well, it's got to be a small amount, but even a small amount's problematic. So again, do you want to be ingesting pesticides, herbicides, PFAS related SVCs, which are semi-volatile compounds? No, you don't want to be ingesting them. And it does have, other things that include autoimmune disease issues too. So again, it really depends on the contaminant, but it does have scientifically documented consequences. So again, it's not just like, well, we think that they're actually, science has actually shown that there is a correlation and a connection there. So
yeah, it's so interesting. So in fact, I actually have been reading a lot of people's hair scans. There's a thing called a DNA hair scan, and they pluck the root out, of your hair out and send it through a machine and get this like 27-page analysis of things in your body. And lately, so many people have been showing me their scans that are full of heavy metals. And it's interesting, a lot of the doctors have told them the best way you can get rid of these heavy metals is actually filter your water. You're probably getting it through your constant water every day.
Yeah, well, our skin, as you know, is our largest organ. So again, you're absorbing things through your skin, and you're getting 80% of your body roughly is made of water. So again, that's why it's such a vital thing. And we have to drink water or we die, So it's like one of those things that we're all consuming something. And if you're not paying attention to it, it's something that can be easily overlooked, because we get, again, the typical customer, as you know, obviously in the supplement world, is spending thousands of dollars a year on supplements or skincare or some sort of make myself better or gym membership. But again, water is one of those ones that's easily overlooked. It's like, oh yeah, well, I'm working out, I'm eating well, I'm trying to limit my consumption of alcohol, whatever it is you're doing to try to better yourself. Bought a Peloton bike, again, whatever that is again, water is an easy one that people miss. They don't think about one of the most basic fundamental things you do every single day. And because you have to, obviously, in order to live.
Right. I tell people quite often, one of the first things on your health journey should be filtered water, because it does make a huge difference. Okay, I want to go back to fluoride because we touched upon that for a little bit, but you share 5 myths about fluoride that simply aren't true. Can
Mhm.
you share those 5 myths with me?
Yeah, so great question. So this is one that we talk about with someone who's just new on the journey for fluoride, or not, sorry, with fluoride with water filtration. So the first myth that, again, this is a myth, that fluoride is naturally occurring in lots of places, so it's natural to drink it. So that's the only reason that we need it. But the reality is fluoride is very rare, and it's about 76% of the tap water they're adding fluoride to it. The reason that we add fluoride to the water, or they added fluoride back in the day, is very different than today. But again, it's a very rare occurrence. It's not something that usually shows up in water that is meant to be drank. So that's the first one.
Okay.
Second myth is fluoride's a nutrient, and your body needs it. And the truth is, it is not. It's considered a heavy metal, neurotoxin. And if you look at the history of why we fluorinated the water back in the early part of the last century, the 1940s and 50s, they started adding fluoride to the water supply, basically because people didn't have access or the same level of education, access, and ability to have their teeth taken care of, go to the dentist. So that was one way to cut down on cavity buildup. So again, there was a right idea, wrong execution from that perspective. So,
Okay.
all right. And the third one, levels of tap water in your tap water for fluoride are safe. It would take more than 100 glasses of water to ingest unhealthy amounts of fluoride. That's an assumption. Like, yeah, it's really not that much fluoride in your water. And the problem is that, for example, like some of the toothpaste companies, I don't know if you've seen it, like they have CDC puts a warning label, like, do not ingest this. In fact, one of them, I'm trying to remember where it was, it says, if your child is consuming infant formula mixed with fluoridated water, there may be increased chance for mild dental fluorosis. Fluorosis is the darkening of the teeth based upon fluoride buildup. But again, typically fluoride in the tap water is about 5 times what the legal limit to ingest is. Or like if you go to the dentist, right? And I know you're talking to your dentist friend last time, but when they have you do like a fluoride rinse, what do they have you do? They have you spit it out. They don't have you drink it. So again, the same idea, you shouldn't be ingesting fluoride and something that you need to be cognizant of, but
Right.
Fourth thing that's a myth, and again, this is things we've kind of built upon, kind of gauged from conversations we've had with customers over the years, or just kind of like the general sentiment. But the fourth myth is that fluoride is regulated. It's just like every other medicine. So, and obviously, we trust the government. Impeccable and passionate. I don't know, but yeah, we trust the government, right? Yeah, they have our best interests at heart, hopefully. But the reality is the FDA does not regulate fluoride. And again, they're using, when you're talking about the type of fluoride that they're using, it's industrial grade. It's based from, byproducts of sometimes like fertilization process for agriculture. So again, stuff you go, do I really want to be ingesting that? And it's regulated, right? Well, the assumption is false because it's not regulated. So
That's interesting.
And then the fifth one that we like to share with people, people today have fewer cavities than they did in 1940s. So this is one of those ones that they talk about correlation isn't always causation. So people have better teeth now. So obviously fluoride is doing its job. The problem is that most countries, not every country in the world fluoridates their water. So, and then the other side of it too is you think now with, people having better access, education, even just better toothbrushes. You go even at Target, you get like a $5 electric toothbrush. All those things play a piece into that. So it's not necessarily because we've added fluoride and a lot of people have less dental issues. That would be kind of like a wrong way to look at it. So that's one of the assumptions that people sometimes go, that's interesting, is when they start thinking about the fact that fluoride isn't good for you, but they're still ingesting it. Well, what are we going to do about that? So just some of the things to be cognizant of, but those are myths that like I said, we've kind of talked about with other customers. So we kind of built kind of the assumption busting model there. So,
well, those are interesting myths, and I've heard some of those, and definitely our teeth are not better now because of the fluoride. I mean, we're now seeing the dentist every 6 months and being educated on, what to do with our teeth. And like you said, better toothbrushes, toothpaste, things like that. So
right, correct. Yeah.
Definitely a myth. Okay. So if we know that fluoride's a neurotoxin in large amounts, then why do you think we keep it in the water supply?
That's a great question. No one has a good answer for that too, because since it's unregulated, why are we continuing to do it? There's different theories on, why they're adding it and why they continue adding it. But I think I think again, it goes back to the assumption that yes, it's safe, or yeah, it's okay, or it's not dangerous. And now that we're finding that that's not the case, I think there's a large outcry that's starting to happen, and people are starting to wake up and say, hold on a second. We're actually paying for something that's actually not good for us to be added to our own water supply. Why are we doing that? It's almost like self-poisoning, So I think that's paradigm is changing, but I think that's also too from the 11 years that we've been doing this with Clearlyfiltered is people are more attuned because it's spread easy access to information on your smartphone. That's been a big helpful tool. Obviously, with the internet evolving and speeds increasing and information being disseminated easily, I think that's something that will change in the future. But I think it's been a long process because again, it's kind of like we've always done it this way. Why should we change? But I think obviously raising your voice and your concern to your local water district or your congressman or woman, I think is important. So that's something you can actually speak up on, and we definitely encourage that.
Yeah, change definitely takes a long time. I know that just with certain ingredients that we've tried to get banned from the FBA, it takes years and years and years of trying to get it banned. So you're right, though. More people are being educated and more people are realizing what they put in their body really makes a difference. And so I think maybe over time we might get that fluoride out of the water.
And I think too, it's just a systems issue because, like I said, like when we as humans and as society, hey, we've always done it this way, or we've done this way for a long time. Why should we switch? And unless there's an impetus to want to switch based upon, obviously in this case, public sentiment, that drives policy. So, I think I like to encourage people to speak up or at least get more information for themselves. I think that's a powerful, and B, helps the powers that be understand that, hey, maybe we don't want it this way anymore. And there should be.
Right. Speaking out and being educated are two huge key components. That's for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to water filters now, because now people are understanding what's in their water, that they should check what's in their water, things like that. But when they're out looking for a water filter, are they all created equal?
Unfortunately, no. So if you go to your average big box retailer, I like Target, so I always use Target because they're a good company. You go to Target, you go down the water filter aisle, and you have about 5 different brands. And you say, oh, cool, I just need a water pitcher for my son or daughter going off to college, because they said that's on the list of items that they're going to need for school. All right, you're going out of state, right? So one of them is a water pitcher. So the assumption that all water pitchers are created equal is also a myth, because a lot of these companies aren't testing their filters or testing them for very low levels of contaminants or for 5 gallons, versus like for us, like over 100 gallons, and like I said, 365 chemicals that were proven to remove. So that's something too, like when you're looking to purchase something, whether it's our product or another product, ask them for the testing results and say, hey, how is this? Is this certified? Is it tested? How is it certified? And can I get a copy of that? So really doing your homework is really important. But what a lot of people find, and they'll say, hey, I switched from brand X, Y, and Z because I found out they didn't remove anything, or removes chlorine taste and odor, or improves those things and does sediment, stuff that's like, yeah, that's fine, but it's not really doing what you need it to do, especially when you find out what's in your tap water. So not all water filters are created equal. So that's a big learning for people. And that's, like I said, usually how we connect with them.
Yeah, I know that for sure, because some of the pitchers out there will reduce like 11 to 13 chemicals, where your pitcher will do over 270, right?
Yeah, well, we actually were, like I said, we're doing some updates to the website. I don't want to get too salesy with this, but we're going to be adding some updated testing. So we actually just got our pitcher retested, and it's 365 contaminants.
Oh, wow.
But we're in the process of updating the information. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, and usually we're constantly retesting our systems to make sure that they're outperforming and continue to level that high level of quality. But yeah, we're at 365 right now, and it's probably going to go up in the near future. But it's usually based on people asking like, hey, what about this contaminant that we've never tested for? So we have to obviously go through the process, send it to the lab, which is not cheap or quick, because again, we want to make sure we stand on what we remove, obviously. But yeah.
So why does your pitcher do so many more contaminants than some other name brand ones? Is it the technology behind the filter?
Yes. So our patented technology is called affinity technology. And the cool part about this, and you can read all about this on our website if you go to clearlyfiltered.com and backslash testing. It's the testing results page. And you can see that our technology is able to, the cool part is like when you look at water filters, there's different types of systems out there. And we talk about that in a bit. But when you remove some of the toxins, sometimes if you use a different type of system, like a reverse osmosis system, it removes everything. So that's why they'd have to add back in nutrients, the minerals, the vital nutrients of water. So ours is actually able to discriminate between toxin and nutrient. And that's kind of the part of the why people are switching to us and find out about us and go, well, that's really cool. So
That is really cool, because tell my listeners what reverse osmosis is and what that does.
Yeah. So reverse osmosis, a real common one, like you buy a new house and you have a system under your sink. Sometimes it's in other areas of the house, but usually under the sink is the most common area. It's usually a 2 or 3 stage system. And what it does is it takes the water, scrubs the water, and then kicks out the dirty water down the drain, or the gray water in the sense. But again, so it takes water to scrub the water to clean the water. So it's usually about 75% less water efficient than compared to like our 3-stage system. So again, ours is filtering the system, not actually using water in order to do that. It's through our affinity technology. So, again, I think it's important. My belief is that we need to be a good steward of what God has given us, and the environment's one piece of that. But yeah, so again, that's why another reason people will turn to us versus like a reverse osmosis system. And honestly, like all the systems aren't straightforward as far as the testing. That goes back to kind of the industry can be a little bit dishonest. So again, that's why I want to over encourage and over communicate the point that whatever brand or whatever item you choose, look at the details, ask questions. And if they can't provide that, I'd be very skeptical of that, or ask why anyway. So,
okay. So the reverse osmosis takes out all the minerals and all the contaminants.
right,
So,
it cleans everything. That's usually what's called dead water, or like distilled water. Same idea. It's like take it through a big reverse osmosis system. It swipes everything. But again, it's not as eco-friendly, and then you have to remineralize it, which is another process.
right. So it wastes some of the water in doing that, where yours
Right.
does not waste the water and it keeps the minerals in there.
Yeah, the cool part, like too, like with if you look at we have bottles for on the go and stuff like that. Like you go to Costco, obviously fixated on big box retailers there for some reason. I don't know, maybe it's Christmas time. I don't know, but anyways, so you go to Costco and get the Kirkland 36 or 50 pack of water bottles, because we all drink lots of water during the day because we're all active, right? But what we found is one of our bottle filters over the course of the year will save 1,600 plastic water bottles, and usually about $1,000 for the average consumer. So if you're looking for like saving money, staying healthy, staying hydrated, not wasting water, again, we meet all 3 of those needs. So it's again, different things are important to different people, but they're all also one of the reasons people choose us, which is cool, So
Well, and also eco-friendly, saving all of that plastic.
yeah, for going to the landfill too. Yeah, exactly. That's tons of plastic buildup that won't go into landfill, and obviously that is an additional problem. So
Right. Okay, so when people are looking for a water filter, people get confused. They're like, should I get a pitcher, something under the sink, a countertop, a whole home system? What do you say to people when they're confused and like, what do I buy?
yeah, it's really a personal preference. Again, it usually starts like for us, like it usually starts with the pitchers are our number one seller, because they said, hey, I bought a insert whatever brand and I have a pitcher and it doesn't do anything. I need a better pitcher. And then usually the migration goes into like, well, I need something for on the go. So that's why we have the bottles, and we also have the under the sink unit, and we also have a refrigerator filter too. So again, really it's coming to meet the need of the customer where they're needed most. But in the home is usually a starting point. So the pitcher and the under the sink system and the inline filter are usually the starting point there. And then obviously with the bottles like on the go, and we have a kid's bottle, we call it the junior bottle. But yeah, obviously keeping your kids healthy and hydrated is very important to us as parents, So yeah, it just kind of depends on what your needs are.
It does depend on your budget too, is what I tell people all the time, because like we have the pitcher for my son who's at college, and that's perfect. That's all that he needs. In my house, we've done the under the counter and we've done the fridge filter. And now, well, I have wanted a whole house system for years and years, but they're so pricey. But now I finally have saved up for that. So we're going to do that next. So really it comes down to your budget too and what you need. I mean, a college student doesn't need a whole house, system. So
And the nice part too, like, I'm one of the world's like least handy people, and like all of our stuff's easy to like install, like the under the sink one, like, I know you installed it, or I think your husband did, but it's easy. It's not hard to do. You don't need to hire a plumber. You don't need a lot of tools. It's easy to set up, maintain, replace the filters. I mean, that's true. Like the ease, which we try to make it easy for the customer as possible too, but again, we designed it with you in mind, or maybe me in mind, someone who's not very, very handy, so.
Right.
That's kind of the fun part. And also saving thousands of dollars because, like, as you well know, it sounds like you're on the market for a whole house system. They're not cheap, and you have to hire a plumber. And there's obviously, cutting into walls and doing other sorts of stuff too. So again, that's the hassle piece too, like the convenience factor. I think for our customers are really one of the driving forces, other than the contaminant removal being, I think, the most important.
Right.
So,
well, I do love your pictures. I've given them as gifts to lots of people, especially new moms, because one day I saw a mom filling up her bottle with the tap water. And I was like, oh, you know what? Clearly pictures are actually a great new mom gift. So I've given them for those. But what I love also are your stainless steel water bottles, because my kids can take those to school, fill them up at the drinking fountain at school, and it will filter out the junk that's in the drinking fountains.
Yeah, or like if you're on the go now that people are back to flying, stuff like traveling for business and stuff like that on the go, I get a lot of feedback from customers like, yeah, I had my first business trip since COVID, and yeah, it was great to not have to worry about buying or bottled tap water, basically, which is bottled water, and then or having to worry about what's in my water, on the go, which is kind of fun. So it's good to see that feedback too, again, because we're opening back up. So
right. Okay, really quick about bottled water. Is most bottled water reverse osmosis or filtered?
It's usually RO, like large RO systems, but again, essentially for most bottle companies, it's just bottled tap water. Again, they filter it to some degree, but again, not efficiently, and they're not going to be to the same level that you're with us, obviously. So again, like bottled water, and again, I have bought bottled water like on a trip before, even after started playing with filters. So again, I'm not speaking out of complete like, oh, no, that never happens. But again, for most people, you're paying for bottled tap water, and it's really the convenience. Like, oh, I just have a bottle, so like, or if you're in a meeting, you grab one out of the fridge or something like that. So that's usually a convenience factor. But again, as we know, tap water is contaminated. I think the other assumption is that the bottle companies will go above and beyond what the municipal water district does, and that's not always the case. So,
okay, good to know. Is there a way for people to test their own water in their home to see if like their filters are actually filtering stuff out?
Yeah, there are at-home test kits and stuff like that. One of the things that we talk about too, like the company that we use, the laboratory that we use is an EPA and NSF certified laboratory. And the testing that we do is very extensive and expensive. Excuse me. Yeah. So again, they go way beyond the level that you would get like at-home test kits. I see a lot of them too, like you go to like Home Depot or someplace like that and say, hey, test your water. It's usually like a sales pitch kind of thing, but there are ways you can do that. But again, the laboratories, hire a bunch of, PhDs, MDs usually to run the testing. So usually it's like, you say to somebody, yeah, you can test the water at home, but our testing, we stand by that. Obviously, we have a lot of smart people that work on that. And also they're certified to do that. That's what they do professionally. So it's like, are you a water scientist? No. Okay, cool. You get where I'm going with that. So.
Yeah. Well, I do like that your company is very transparent with your testing. With every product that you buy, you get an insert, you guys, that shows everything that is filtered out. And it's actually quite eye-opening. I was like, wow, that's a lot of things that this pitcher can filter out. Yeah.
And we're getting requests like all the time. Like every day there'll be some new contaminant that popped up. They found X, Y, and Z in the water contaminant. With like, are you certified to remove it? I go, oh, not yet, but we can try it on the next round. So that's why, again, we always go with the assumption we want to be improving and obviously showcasing that. But again, it's really interesting how kind of certain contaminants are trending, kind of just like regular insert whatever topic you're looking for. But that's usually what drives people to ask and find out about that. So we're constantly retesting and looking for new ways to improve, and if that actually does it. So,
well, I hope my listeners have learned something today. I'm sure they have learned, hopefully, that their tap water may not be as clean as they think it is, and that it's actually really easy to get a good water filtration system. It's not this hard scientific thing. They can actually just go purchase one online. So in fact, tell my listeners where they can find Clearly Filtered.
Yeah, you can find us on our website. So you go to clearlyfiltered.com. We're also on Amazon as well. So as another reference point. But yeah, I mean, we're easy to find. Like I said, we're really nice, easy to work with people. And hopefully you can attest to that too. But yeah, no, I mean, we love being able to serve people that are in need of a good water filter, and it's an honor and a pleasure. And again, I love what I do for a living. So and I'm glad that we can I feel like we're making a difference too, which is cool. And it's some small way,
Right. That's awesome. Anything else you'd like to share with them about water?
I think just the biggest thing I would say, the bullet point would be make sure to do your homework. Obviously know what your budget is, ask around, call the company. If it's not our company, we have a customer service team that's happy to answer any questions, answer chats, emails, text messaging, so we can interface with you guys a variety of ways. But again, ask for the testing result, find out how it was tested, take your time, be selective, ask around about it. I think that's, kind of the general, like, come at it with a sense of skepticism. I think there's a healthy level of skepticism. I tend to be sickeningly optimistic, but I think for the water filter industry in particular, you need to have that that guard up and really ask a lot of good questions. I know your audience is really into that kind of thing and very intelligent. So I think just take it any other way, just like any other product you'd be taking, a supplement, for example. So
right. Always ask questions.
Yep. Always ask good questions. Yep.
And with that, I say, ask the questions of, is your water affecting your health? Mm-hmm. Maybe get some testing done from your doctor and see if your water's playing a part.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned like the hair test. I mean, there's a variety of different, ways you can test for toxicity in the body. So, I mean, there's a lot of good tools out there. So it's pretty cool, actually. So.
Right. Okay. So I always end my podcast with asking my guests what they have found to be the best ingredient to life. What would you say yours is?
That's a great question. I think for me, my belief is finding balance in everything. Not that I've accomplished that. I don't believe there's any perfect people out there, but finding good, mental balance, spiritual balance, physical balance, be that with your health or your family. For me, running, I'm a dog lover. So like with my golden retriever, whatever those things, finding balance. Obviously, relationship with God, I think, is important as a person of faith like I am. I think that's really important. But just seeking to find that balance, I think that's an important journey. I think it's a lifelong journey, so at least for me. But that's my belief anyhow. So
I love that. And being on a health journey definitely involves balance. There's balance with every aspect of the health journey. And balance is actually really hard to do in life. I've found out it's hard to balance work life, family life, your hobbies, interests, all those things. So thank you for sharing that. That is a good one.
Like managing your expectations too. I saw somebody online, they said something about they were at the gym and they were talking about managing their own expectations. I go, that's so true. Like managing the expectations of ourselves. Like, what do we expect to even get done during the day? If you don't hit that mark, it's like, where do you find that balance? But I think it's a process,
It's a lifelong goal.
Yeah, I think so. But it's an aspirational goal, as we'll call it, right?
Exactly. But if you're aware of it, then you'll work on it. So being aware of it's the first thing.
For sure. Yeah. Well said.
Well, thank you so much for being here on the show today. I really appreciate it. I know the listeners have learned a little something about water, and I hope they find Clearly Filtered online.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for your time. It was great to connect with you guys and get the chance to hang out with you guys today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to subscribe to the Just Ingredients podcast to learn more about your health and good ingredients to life. Plus, get daily tips at just.ingredients on Instagram.